Now let me introduce our wonderful host for the evening, Elyce Arons. Elyce Arons is the co-founder and CEO of Francis Valentine, a New York-based luxury apparel and accessories company. Francis Valentine celebrates the power of personal style through clothes and accessories that boost your mood and tell a story. A 35-year fashion veteran, Elyce knows a thing or two about business and style. She famously chased her passion for fashion all the way from Kansas to New York City alongside her best friend Kate and co-founded Kate Spade in 1993. Elyce shepherded the company from inception to international success, growing it into one of the most iconic brands in modern fashion history, and was instrumental in its 2006 sale to Neiman Marcus Group. In 2016, Elyce, Kate, and Andy Spade launched Francis Valentine as an evolution of their joyful style aesthetic, a brand with heart, soul, and a story to tell. In June 2025, Elyce published her debut memoir, We Might Just Make It After All, My Best Friendship with Kate Spade, which debuted on the New York Times bestseller list. The book chronicles her decades-long friendship with Kate Spade and the lessons she has learned building two iconic fashion brands. Elyce has been featured on Good Morning America and The Today Show and in publications including WWD, The New York Times, and The Wall Street Journal. She lives in New York City with her husband and 3 daughters. When she is not running a global brand, you will find her gardening, playing tennis, or pursuing the colorful stalls of a vintage market. Elyce, we are absolutely thrilled to have you here with us tonight.
Come on to Zoom from different places all around the country. It's really thrilling. As you all know, my best friend Katie was a Kappa Kappa Gamma. I pledged Chi Omega, and I tend to do a lot with the Chi House because I am a member there. But I tried to do a lot with Kappas as well because it was really important to Katie. And I have to give a shout out to Hannah Jackson from Atlanta because she is the one who asked us to make a Kappa Kappa Gamma long sleeve t-shirts. The long sleeve t-shirts we sell are in this gorgeous Pima cotton. They're the softest shirts in the whole world. And she was a big fan and asked us to make one with your Pantones, which we did. And I have to say, it's one of the best sellers. So thank you, Hannah. But I wanted to share a little bit about my story tonight and about my best friendship with Katie and really share with you how we got to where we got. I mean, we're 2 kids from the Midwest who, grew up doing all sorts of jobs and going to school in the Midwest. And for those of you who have not read the book yet or in the middle of the book, I'll just share a few things. I grew up on a farm outside of Wichita, Kansas, a little town called Sedgwick. On a farm, we raised Angus cattle. We grew wheat, corn, soybeans, Milo, alfalfa, and I was the youngest of 4 daughters. So there wasn't really a day off on the farm. If anyone has grown up on a farm, you know there's no day off. And I remember my mother always saying at Christmas, we'd always want to go unwrap our gifts and open our stockings. And she said, no, you got to go do your chores first and feed the cattle because they don't know it's the weekend. They don't know it's your birthday and they don't know it's Christmas. So it was something that, we always had to do growing up. And I finally graduated from high school when I was 18. And back then, you really kind of only went to your state school. It wasn't like being able to look across the United States, at least for my family, it wasn't. So I ended up at the University of Kansas, and it was there that I met Katie Brosnahan. We were 2 doors down from each other, her last name beginning with a B, and mine at the time was Cox, beginning with a C. And I showed up the first day of class thinking I was so cool. I'd just been to New York City shopping with my mom, and I had on a pair of parachute pants, green pointy-toed boots, and some top that I'd probably just bought that was probably crazy. And Katie and I looked at each other. She was wearing Weegian loafers, a pair of khaki shorts, and a popped-collared polo shirt. And we just looked at each other and thought, we are not going to be friends. But that soon changed, and we discovered that we shared a lot of things in common. One was a love for vintage shopping. Another was we were both big pranksters and played a lot of practical jokes on people all the time. And one of the other main things was a love for Mary Tyler Moore. And for young women who grew up in the 60s and 70s, mostly in the 70s, Mary Tyler Moore was an icon for all of us because back then women didn't really have traditional men's jobs. And they also didn't have the same amount of rights and culturally were not accepted in the same way that we are today. Mary was an outlier and she had a TV show called The Mary Tyler Moore Show where she played Mary Richards. Mary was single, no boyfriend, no fiance, no husband. She made her way in a man's world, a male-dominated um, in journalism, and she was confident and independent and stylish and funny. She had great friends, and we just wanted to be like Mary. Mary let us believe that we could grow up and be anything we wanted and do anything we wanted. And she was the first person really in American culture for young women to look up to be able to do that. So Katie and I both uh, decided to go into journalism because of Mary Tyler Moore. And so the fact that that was such a connection for us right off the bat is one of those things that gets revisited in the book. And I'll tell you something that you don't know at the end. Um, but we went to University of Kansas. We went to visit her sister our sophomore year for spring break, and her sister lived in Arizona. And while we're there, her sister rolled out the red carpet treatment, taking us to really fancy restaurants and showing us the ASU campus and showing us singles apartments that looked like so much fun. And back at her sister's house, Katie's like, gosh, maybe we should go to school here. It's pretty cool. And the nice thing for Katie was she had really bad allergies and she could actually breathe there. And I thought, gosh, it's a state school. Why not? So we transferred to Arizona, which was crazy, just thinking it would be that easy. We just did it. And at 19 years old, weren't thinking about out of state tuition. So we arrive in Arizona. We're super excited. We move into our singles apartment. It was cool. We thought, oh, this is just like Mary Richards. And we had registration a couple days later, and we realized that the out-of-state tuition was 4 times the cost of the tuition at KU. So we immediately hit the pavement and decided to go out and get jobs, which we finally did. There's a whole funny part in, in the book about that. We finally both got jobs. Katie worked at a men's clothing store, and I got a job, a great job, my favorite job ever, at the Biltmore Golf Course as a beverage cart girl, driving around the golf course making cocktails. And we worked 5 days a week and went to school 2 days a week, but we loved living in Arizona. It was really such a departure from living in the Midwest and having seasons. It was sunny and warm all the time. Just kind of woke up happy there. So, cut to, we had planned on going to Europe when we graduated as sort of our Thelma and Louise trip, and we were really excited about it. And I was sort of counting my money as we're planning to graduate. And I said to Katie, my dream has always been to move to New York when I graduated. And I've been to Europe before. I know you haven't, but I think I only have enough money to either go to Europe or go to New York. And she was really understanding about it. I was surprised. And she said, well, I'm still going to go by myself, which she did. So I moved to New York. She went to Europe. And I really missed her when I moved to New York. It was an exciting time for me, and I loved it. And I luckily had a sister there who I got to stay with until I found my own apartment. But after about 3 months, I was really missing my best friend. And lo and behold, my phone rang, and it's her frantic on the phone. And she said, I'm at JFK and I have $5 in my pocket and I have no money to get home. So, which was music to my ears because my best friend then shows up on my doorstep and found her a job through a temp agency, which of course was the job I always wanted. She got a job at Mademoiselle magazine, but I was still happy for her. I was working in public relations for a fashion company. It was called J.G. Hook at the time. Katie worked at Mademoiselle. We, worked for years, had side jobs just to pay the rent, um, and had a lot of fun doing it. You kind of think even when you're broke, oh, you look back and you think it wasn't so fun. It was a blast. We had such a good time because we took advantage of all the things that New York had to offer, and had a couple of roommates at the same time. So We had been working in New York for many years. Katie's boyfriend, Andy, moved up to move in with us, and they finally got their own apartment. And we'd been there for 6 or 7 years by that point. I moved on to work for a really cool jean company, jeans I couldn't afford while I was in college, but it was called Mary Tan Francois Gerbeau. And in the 90s, 80s and 90s, it was a really big denim brand, the French brand, very cool. So it's still around today. But I was so excited to work for them, and I got to travel all over the world doing public relations and special events for them. So in 1993, Katie and Andy called me and they said, you know how we always wanted to have that business together in college? We just didn't have any money or any experience to do anything. Well, we think we should start a handbag company. We want you to do it with us. So Katie, because she had been an editor at Mademoiselle, she was the accessories editor. So she would go find, she'd have to find scarves and gloves and jewelry and handbags for all the photo shoots they were doing. And she noticed a real void in the market, which was there were really beautiful European bags that had a lot of hardware on them, or there were simple canvas LL Bean bags. But there wasn't a whole lot in between. And back then, if you read Claire McCardle's, the book about Claire McCardle, which is fabulous, there weren't a ton of American designers, and if there were, they were ready to wear designers, and nobody had really tapped into the accessories market in a big way. So Katie's idea was to create these beautiful geometric shaped bags that were rectangular and make them very simple but really chic. And she found this beautiful satin nylon fabric. She used webbing handles, and I joined. We found another partner that summer, and we were getting ready for the show. We had all the samples ready. It was pretty exciting. And our labels were actually men's shirting labels that were in the back of their shirts. And we had them all sewn on the inside of the bags. And the night before the show, Katie's standing back, she's looking at the bags, and she said, they're missing something. You need somewhere for the eye to go. And she pulled up one of the plain labels and put it right underneath on the outside lip of the handbag. And that one move really turned our handbags into a brand. And we had our big show at the Javits Center the next day. We were so nervous about it because we'd spent all of our money, $2,500 to get into the show. We get our booth, we go all the way back to the back, and we're right near the hot dog stand, all the way in the back of the show. And Katie's like, oh my God, we're going to lose all of our money. Nobody's going to find us back here. But they did. And we sold to Charivari, which was a beautiful specialty store chain in New York City. We sold to Barney's, and we sold to Intermix. So we went home with these really great stores, orders from them in our pockets. And it just really started continue to grow after that. We were in Katie and Andy's loft apartment for about 2 years, and there was no air conditioning. And they had a hand-operated elevator that opens up to a loft. And it was really rickety and a little bit scary to use, but that's how we sent out shipments. We packed everything in their apartment, and then we'd send shipments out that way. And it was really, really an exciting time. And Pamela, our other partners, it was Katie, Pamela, and myself all working in the loft together, having a blast and fighting every day, of course, because that's what we do. And Pamela said, you know, we can't stay in your apartment anymore. It was getting too crowded. And it was a pretty big loft. It was like 2,000 square feet. So we found a space in the garment district, which was really in the fur district, and kind of painted everything white in this space and turned it into our very first office, which was nice. So we're in that new office space for, a couple months, and I get a phone call. Like, answer the phone. Kate Spade, this is Elyce. May I help you? And it was Mary Tyler Moore's agent. And she said, Mary would like to see your bags. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled. That's great news. I said, she can see them at Saks or at Barney's. She said, no, Mary wants to come to your office. She wants to see everything. So cut to the next day, Mary Tyler Moore walks through our door, and we got to meet our idol. And I was pretty speechless, but she was so down to earth and so lovely and so nice and normal. And we got to tell her how much we admired her show. We got to talk about the show with her. And she said, wasn't that just the greatest show with such good values? And I mean, it was really so much more than that to us. But we got to tell her how she inspired us to start our own business and to become entrepreneurs and know that we could do anything. So we followed Mary's career, forever. And it was just, we were walking on air for months after that. It was just such a treat. Shortly after, Katie was nominated and won the CFDA award, the Council of Fashion Designers of America award for Best Accessory Designer. And it really changed our business. It was deservedly given to her because she really had such a wonderful idea, and our brand really changed the face of the handbag business in New York at the time. So we were in fashion magazines. Vogue came to shoot in our office, which was just one of those pinch me moments when here we were, kids from the Midwest, all of a sudden our business is successful, and Vogue magazine that we've been reading our whole lives comes to shoot us. And it was such a great experience. The cover of the book is actually from the day of the Vogue shoot. And that top I'm wearing is Katie's wedding top. And when we knew Vogue was coming, she goes, "You have to wear something really great. You have to wear something." She goes, "Wear my wedding top because it's so perfect and it's really special." And she was messing with my hair before too. So my hair was up a little bit, have kind of up down hair. And it was just such an exciting day to be shot by Vogue for us because it was the first time we'd had our makeup professionally done. And it was a wonderful, exciting experience. So that those two events, the CFDA and the Vogue shoot, were two of those times when you kind of can't believe what's happening. And it just all took off after that. So we had a really wonderful business for a long time. Um, and in 1999, we had a lot of 98, 99, we had a lot of investment firms buzzing around, really wanting to buy the company. We're like, oh my gosh, we've only had it for a handful of years and it's just not time to do that yet. And we were having a great time and we were working 24/7, it felt like. But we met with them anyway because we thought, well, it's a learning experience and, maybe we'll make contacts in this world. And none of it really felt right to us. We did not want to sell the company at that point. But we were introduced to the family who owned Neiman Marcus. And they were putting together a small group of brands that they really believed in. And so we met with them. They wanted to buy a percentage in the company, not the whole thing. And they wanted to partner with us. And it was a really good opportunity, we felt, for us because it would give us the financial stability to keep growing. If you've ever worked for a small company or owned a small company, you know that if you're growing that fast, if it's going just like this, you need cash flow and constant influx of money to keep it growing because you're getting orders and you have to produce all this. And the cash flow is usually 90 days later than when you need it. So we sold 56% of the company to them. It's a very long story, but I'm making it short. And they were good partners because they pretty much just let us keep running the company. They owned it. We met with them quarterly. It was fine. And we just continued to grow during that time. But it was a relief for us because we had opened some stores by then, and it allowed us to take our names off, our personal names off of the leases. And it gave us a real financial footing to continue to grow the company in a much larger way. So we added product categories, we added stationery, we added shoes, we added bedding and tabletop and fragrance, and it was just exploding. Our staff kept growing every year. We kept taking over more space in the building we were in. And at one point, we had about 50,000 square feet in the building, and which was beautiful because we designed every floor, and it was like being in our apartment. It was really fun. So we had so many things going on, and you'll have to read the whole story to get there. But in 2006, we sold the whole company with Neiman Marcus to Liz Claiborne, what was then the Liz Claiborne Company. And they had been one of the people who wanted to buy us originally in the beginning. And it just what the timing wasn't right yet. But by this point, we weren't financially able to buy our stock back from Neiman's, so the whole company had to be sold. And there were a few who wanted us to stick around. Liz Claiborne wanted us to stay on, but without ownership, it would really feel different. And during that time of all that 13 years, we'd all gotten married and had children. And I had my third child the day we closed on selling the company in 2006. And it just our priorities started to shift, and it felt like the right time to do this. We had a really good run. We still respected each other. We were still best friends. And we thought, it's okay. We're leaving it in good hands. We feel really good about this. And so we sold the company. We all went on this big vacation together to Cabo San Lucas, which was a blast, brought our families, brought all of our kids, and really celebrated. And that was a very special place for us because Katie had found it when she was on shoots for Mademoiselle. So it was kind of a special place that we went back to over and over again. That one felt a little bittersweet because it was when we sold the company, and but I still have good fun memories of it anyway. So we all get home from that trip. We worked for another 6 months for the company and then had the summer off. It was lovely, got to spend it with our families. And I remember dropping my kids off at school that September. I walked out of the front door of the school, and for the very first time in my life, I had nowhere to go. There was no one waiting for me, no office to go to, no job, and I didn't really know what to do with myself. So Katie pretty much felt the same way. She thought she would really enjoy being off a lot. But once you have something and then you don't, it really, I didn't realize how much of my own myself was rolled up into owning and running a company. And Katie was always going to be Kate Spade. Like when people run into her, they still thought she owned the company, even 10 years ago. But we both got involved in our children's schools. And as some of you may know, once you start volunteering at school, you get sucked into everything. So I chaired events. I became PA president for many years. And then I was asked to join the board of trustees, and I became the board chair for many years when we were building a high school. And it was a really exciting time, and a time in which I learned so much from so many other people because it was a nonprofit. But Katie and I both missed fashion. And so we started talking about starting a new business together. And Andy and Pamela wished us well, but they had both started their own companies. And so Andy helped us with the marketing. And Katie really loved accessories more than anything else. She loved designing handbags and shoes. And if you notice, while during the time that we owned Kate Spade, we never had a ready-to-wear collection. We never did apparel. It's because I think she loved buying it from other designers, honestly. We would do pieces. We would do a poncho or a raincoat or something like that, but they were more accessories to our accessories. So when we started Frances Valentine, we started out with handbags and shoes, which were her favorites. And of course, after being out of the business for about 7 years, everything had changed. And we kind of thought we knew everything coming back in, and oh, this will be great. This will be easy. We know it all. But we did it because e-commerce had changed everything. It was when we left Kate Spade, there was one person in the corner. They were the e-commerce person. So everything had changed by the time we came back. And e-commerce was king. Retail had changed drastically because of it. Influencers had taken over so many of the jobs from editors. And we had a lot to learn about social media and just a different way of doing business. And we were up for the challenge. We were just getting rolling and finding success in this new business. We were in business for about 2 years, and that's when we tragically lost Katie. And the loss for me was devastating. I have to tell you. But one of the things that I wanted to do after we lost her, I really felt like we had to keep the company going for her family, for her legacy, and for the team we had built at Frances Valentine. I'm sorry I'm getting choked up. I still get choked up talking about her. But I wanted to do something that was a tribute to her. So I didn't feel like it could be handbags, and I wanted to do something that meant something to both of us. So, as you know, we had been huge vintage shoppers when we were children, through high school, college, and young adults. We always loved vintage pieces because they were crafted and they were special, and you couldn't buy anything like them. The quality and the details on them just made them unique. So I pulled out two of her favorite vintage pieces. One was a caftan that she wore on every vacation we'd ever taken together. And one was an embroidered sweater with flowers all over it. And Katie often wore it backwards, which she was so cute. So we made those pieces and we called it the Love Katie collection. And they sold out immediately, of course. We reordered them. They sold out again and again and again. And people started asking us for all the things we were using in our campaigns and in our shoots, which were all the vintage pieces that we had collected together all those years. So we started making swing coats and we started making cigarette pants and we started making jackets and sweaters. And it became a huge part of our business. And when our retail wholesale accounts came in, they wanted to buy it. And so it's become a huge part of our business. And every time I'm working on something and designing something new, I think, would Katie like this? And so I feel like she'd be really happy where we are because I feel she has had a part in designing this because they were pieces that we collected together. And I still shop vintage all the time and I'm still inspired by all those old pieces. But what we try to do at Francis Valentine is make beautiful pieces that make women happy. Our mantra is wear what makes you happy. And we use our own prints, so all of our prints are our own that artists make and no one else can use them. And we make really beautiful crafted things. I won't make it if we can't make it well. And our sweaters are beautiful quality. They're all things that I think if I found it in a vintage shop, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is great. I have to have this. But I want it to go with the accessories and to really to have everything really work together. And I feel like, we would have made Katie really proud in growing this business and adding apparel to it. So it's really become a full lifestyle brand now. I when I think, about how I even started writing the book, my husband really has been on me for years to write it. And I said, Andy, Francis Valentine's just so busy. I just don't have time. I don't have time. And a couple years ago, he said, you'll never have time if you don't make the time. And very good point. So I also thought I would be sad, and I had to reach an emotional point where I could actually sit down and do it. So I thought I would be sad writing it, but it was the opposite. I decided I was going to not focus on how Katie left us because that was one moment in time and focus on how she lived because she was, I mean, such an icon and probably the best friend anybody could ever have. So I started writing the book, and what I found myself doing was laughing. Every time I'd write down a story, and I took notes in my phone, and I would write down all the funny things, and I'd be in a room by myself, and my husband would say, what are you laughing about? What's so funny? I was like, oh my God, this one story about the two of us when we did X and when we did this. And I took notes on my phone. And before I knew it, I had hundreds of stories and they were throughout time. And I swear to God, I'm not a hoarder, but I kept all of my calendars from the 80s and 90s and 2000s. They were the week at a glance Moleskine calendars that sit on your desk. And back then, before the internet, I kept all my appointments and everything I was doing that night. And when Katie was going to Italy or when Pamela was going to Asia. And so I was able to put those stories into a time frame. And all the photographs that are undated, I was like, oh, I know where we were for this. This was my birthday party for XYZ. So all the photographs in the book, I was able to date those and put them in a sequence with all of the stories. So I was able to really focus on how Katie lived and all the joy she brought to so many people instead of how she left us. And that was my whole point of the book. And to also reminisce about being in New York in the 90s as a young woman and what that felt like. I think there's kind of a parallel maybe to a Sex and the City feeling that happened a little bit later, but I feel like those were all New York girls and we were all Midwestern girls. So we were different in a way, and we came to New York City innocent but ready to work hard. Um, so I think the book has resonated with a lot of women who came to New York when I did or lived in New York during that period, and they might have moved somewhere else now. But I think New York in the 90s is a very special part of the book. Um, and kind of making your business happen. And but probably the main thing is really about best friendship. And if you are lucky enough to have a best friendship like I had, to really cherish it and to cherish your girlfriends and um, call them tonight and tell them you love them and just like really keep in touch with them, because you can't just make a friend that's as strong as the one you make when you're younger. And I have wonderful friends. I have so many lovely women in my life who are great, but Katie was that person who was my best friend. And I wanted this book to be a tribute to her, to tell people how she lived. I'm sorry I'm getting so choked up. I usually don't. I can talk about this without getting choked up, but I kind of feel like you all have a special connection to her because she's a Kappa. So I will let Sophie, because I can talk forever. I'll let Sophie chime in with some questions now and take a drink of water in the meantime.
Before we open the floor to questions, we just want to make a quick note to help guide our conversation tonight. Elyce has generously offered to talk about her career, her book, her friendship with Kate, creativity, leadership, and the lessons she's learned along the way. One topic she's chosen to keep private is Kate's daughter, and we ask that everyone please respect that boundary as we move into this question segment. Thank you so much for helping us keep this a thoughtful and respectful space. So just as I said, drop your questions in the chat and they're going to live on this page that I can start asking Elyce everything you guys want to know about Frances Valentine, their best friendship, everything like that. So our first question I see from Melissa is, do you still live in New York City? And do you ever think about wanting your girls to have a Midwestern upbringing? Why or why not?
I do still live in New York City, and I never thought I'd raise children in New York. I never thought I would. But once you're there and you're in a community and you realize it's not a whole lot different from anywhere else, aside from the fact that you get to walk everywhere. And I also felt like my children probably got enough Midwestern from me. So they get both sides of it and they get to be from New York City. So they've had a really good experience. And our school was so nurturing and lovely, and just a wonderful place for them to grow up.
Sounds like it. Where do you see Frances Valentine going in the future?
Continuing to make beautiful things for women to feel great. We've got 9 stores around the country, and I love a small business, so I don't want to get too big, but you have to keep growing. So, we sell to a lot of specialty stores, but I'm just enjoying doing what I'm doing now, and I absolutely love it.
What advice would you offer to someone interested in starting their own business?
Oh, well, I would say find a company that you admire and or that's well run, get a job with them and learn everything you can. Show up early, stay late, offer to do anything, work as the assistant, whatever you have to do, but learn every single thing, because if you plan to become an entrepreneur, you are going to have to do every job, from the design to the ugly things like finance and accounting and cleaning the bathrooms. You got to do it all. So I would just say learn from somebody who does it very well, and just think of it as a free education, because you're getting paid while you're doing that, and learn as much as you can and then go out on your own.
I have, so Molly says she has a lot of quirky Kate Spade wallets and purses, tennis ball prints, stuff like that. Where did that sense of humor come from?
Andy Spade has a very good sense of humor, and he and Katie worked on a lot of that together. It was probably, if it was something before um, 2007, then it was us. But if it was post 2007, then that was a different creative team who was hired to do that work. We didn't do a lot of the kind of whimsical things like the pizza and the any of that. We really kind of stuck to what we did best, and it was those rectangular shapes, but a lot of different fun stuff within that.
Yes. You did a beautiful job reading the audiobook. Katie wants to know what was it like getting to record that?
I've never done it before, so it was really interesting. My husband tried to talk me out of it. He's like, "Oh no, you should have a professional do it, have a celebrity do it." And I said, "Yeah, but it's a memoir. Like, if it's about me and about my story, shouldn't I be the one to do it?" So I went in, and you basically have like 5 or 6 4-hour sessions with them, and you're in a room that's completely padded and soundproof and airproof and everything, and you have a big microphone and an iPad in front of you, and you kind of get in a groove with it, but you have to pretend like that iPad is a person and you're telling a story, and you kind of get into the groove, and I actually really enjoyed doing it.
What is your favorite vintage store to shop in Paris?
Oh gosh, I have a whole list and I'm happy to share them. Of course, of course, because you're asking, I'm not going to think of the
Oh,
one that I love the most. But I'll have somebody post it on my Instagram or something.
awesome. Thank you. Sorry, we did that probably is really hard to come up with on the spot. Do you have another book in the works, memoir or otherwise?
Thinking about two things. I just don't know when we're going to be able to do them. I've had a lot of people while I've been out on this book tour ask about the next 10 years. They're like, yeah, you kind of cut it off, right? When you sold Kate Spade and you didn't really talk about Frances Valentine. And we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary February 14th. So that may be a possibility of talking about the beginning and the building of Frances Valentine, because it was very exciting. I also really want to work on a style book, which I think would be super fun, with a lot of cool prints that we use and places around the world, and make it more visual um, than writing.
Fun. What is one style tip even a fashion disaster can incorporate?
Um, Gosh. Well, Katie always used to tell me, just fix your hair. Just always have your hair done, because hair is everything. And she's right. For me, it's hair and lipstick.
Totally. What is your favorite piece you ever created?
Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones. There's so many good ones. I think one of my favorites is our fisherman sweater. It sounds boring, but I bought this sweater at a vintage shop 25 years ago, and it was probably 30 or 40 years old when I bought it. And we remade that. And the original Irish weaves on those sweaters were from Irish families, and they basically owned that. And of course, I'm watching The Crown one night and I see the Queen wearing my sweater. I'm like, oh my God, it's the same sweater that I have. So we remade that sweater, and I think that's why it's my favorite.
That's so fun. Do you have a favorite Frances Valentine piece or pattern?
Yes, right now I have oh gosh, the Susie jacket is fabulous. I love that. It's a long jacket and it's got 3 buttons right here, and you can wear it over pants or anything. It's very cool. It's very Palm Royale feeling.
Totally. I love that show too. What is your best advice for young women looking for what's next in their careers? This is a Kansas Kappa here and used to love seeing Katie's composite in the hall.
Oh, hello. I was just back at KU visiting. It was so much fun. Um, so what was that question again? I'm sorry. I just don't want to. I
It
don't want to
was,
answer wrong.
oh, so sorry. It is, what is your best advice for young women looking for what's next in their
Oh,
careers?
you know what I would say? Do what you're really good at. And if you're passionate about something, getting really like successful at what you're good at allows you to follow your passions and enjoy them. And I know the advice usually is follow your passion, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you should do what you're good at so then you can enjoy your passions on the side and have enough money and success to enjoy them.
Why do you think that Kate Spade was such a huge hit in Japan?
Japanese customers and Japan was going through a period of time way back then that everything American was popular. And the Japanese economy was really healthy, but they were really opening up everything to America. And, you know, our movies and our fashion and all of that stuff. And we had a ton of Japanese buyers in buying Kate Spade at the time. So I think it was just one of those moments in time. Now it might be the Middle East being, you know, international, where we see the international growth.
Totally. How did you get the name Frances Valentine?
Ah, it's a very good question. So when we started the company, we obviously couldn't use Kate Spade or her name because we sold that name. And we didn't want to be cheeky about it because another company had bought it. And so we wrote down all these names that we loved. And we had a whole bunch of different ones and names of flowers. And you know, we kept going, kind of going through. And some of them were really, really silly, but we liked them. And so we ended up using two family names. One was Francis and one was Valentine. And we put it together to become sort of that favorite person in your life, your favorite aunt who's so chic and stylish, or your best friend who makes you laugh harder than anybody else. And Francis Valentine was sort of who we were to each other.
Totally. What advice would you give girls in their early 20s trying to navigate starting their career, relationships, and finding themselves post-grad?
I would say probably what I mentioned before, and it's find a company you really admire or products that you really admire from that company and try and get a job with them. Take any job with them and learn what they do and learn everything about it. And you can move up and it will be something, you know, once you are successful and get good at something, you can continue moving up in your career. But I think everybody has to be willing to start at the bottom. Most of the people who start at our company at Francis Valentine start at the reception desk, and they're usually there for a couple of years. And people give them jobs all day long, but they learn about every department in our company, and they can really shine for somebody who's throwing them a lot of work, and that person ends up hiring them in their department. So it's a really good way to do it.
Are you coming to Phoenix on your book tour in March still?
Yes, I am. Arizona State contacted us early in the year, and they are giving both Katie and me the Walter Cronkite Alumni Award. And so I'm heading back to Arizona the first week in March to accept
Lots
that.
of cheers, lots of claps, and
Yeah.
congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. We also just shot our spring campaign there, which is coming out, and we've got a catalog coming out in March, but it'll also be on our website. So you'll see Arizona all over the place in our spring campaign.
Oh, wow.
And Andy Spade came on the shoot with us too, so it was really
Oh,
fun.
how fun. Molly loves what you're wearing now. Is it from your line? If so, sign her up.
Yes, this is our Kaleidoscope Minnow Maxi, and it's a beautiful print. It has a lot of color in it, and just a tip for everybody. Everyone looks good in pink. So wear pink anytime you want to because it always makes your skin look good and your face look good.
I totally live by that. Do you have any tips for maintaining women friendships in adulthood?
Keep in touch with your friends. Keep in touch with what's going on with them. Ask them about their families, their significant others, their children. and just keep in touch. I love the idea of writing a letter. And even if you write one letter a week, one personal letter, you think about when you get your mail, most of it's junk, but the one you open first is always a personal card or a personal note from someone. And I have kind of gotten into the habit of writing one letter to somebody who I haven't talked to in years, but just writing them a note to tell them how they affected my life or how important they are to me. And I have never not gotten an email or a call back or a letter back to say that meant so much to me. So I think the old-fashioned letter writing still has it's just so much more special than getting an email or a text.
I have to agree. A lot of people are also agreeing that they love snail mail.
Yeah.
Um, are any of your three daughters following in your fashion footsteps?
Well, they have all worked at Francis Valentine at the corporate office, helping me on things over time, and they've all worked at our retail stores at one point or another. But one is in finance, one is in film, and the other is a sophomore at Tulane. So I have a feeling they're all going to take their own paths, unfortunately.
How fun though.
But they do steal out of my closet all the time. So that's a good thing.
Totally. You have such a positive energy, and with the mention of old calendars, would you consider making a planner or a motivational journal? I will say you've gotten a lot of comments, and I totally agree about how positive and well-spoken you are tonight. So the chat has
Oh,
been
well,
going
thank
off
you.
about how much they love hearing you talk.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'll put that on the list, the planner.
Yeah. What is the number one thing you look for when hiring a new person to join the corporate team?
Well, they obviously have to be qualified for the job for which we were hiring them, but they have to be gracious and polite and have a good sense of humor.
I love that. How many employees does Francis Valentine have now?
We have about 30 some at the corporate office and about, gosh, I think about 75 between all of our stores.
That's awesome. How would you describe the corporate culture at Francis Valentine?
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. We have such a blast. The pranking continues. They even prank me. Even our summer interns were pulling pranks on me this and I was so unsuspecting because we didn't really know each other that well. And oh my God, I had so much fun with them. We had a blast. Our office is wonderful. And I remember somebody at Kate Spade, one of our advisors, saying, "You better enjoy this now because lightning doesn't strike twice with the corporate culture." Well, it did because we have the best people in the whole world working at Francis Valentine. I look forward to Monday morning to seeing them all.
Totally. Do you ever buy from other designers?
I did before we started making clothing, but now I kind of make everything that I want,
I
love.
don't blame
So
you. It's so
I don't,
beautiful.
I don't usually know.
Best advice for going into designing fashion for someone who can't draw or sew.
Oh, well, I can't draw and I am not a very good seamstress at all. So, you could be a stylist, and that is a great way to go about moving into the fashion business. If you're good at putting things together and layering and picking things out, and you have a good eye, that's a great place to start.
So we have two more questions. I think what this Catherine loved your prank stories in the book. What was your favorite prank with Katie?
Oh gosh. I can't tell one of them um, because Katie pulled it on me, but so I can't tell that one, sorry, because she wouldn't like it if I did. I think I told my fave because I was getting back at her with um, the bolts of fabric over the fake body in the book, and I think that's probably my favorite one. Um, we did this to each other all the time, but so many of the times we would both end up, you know, not surviving as part of the prank. So it's why I couldn't add so many more of those to the book because it just sounded sick. And people, our friends were like, "You guys go way too far with these practical jokes." But we laughed about it all the time. We had such a good time.
Everybody loved the lizard in the shower story, it sounds like.
Oh my gosh, she got me so good.
And then our last question is, can you describe more about being a woman-owned business in the city in the 90s? What were some challenges you overcame, and did it feel like you were changing the game at the time?
Well, the lucky thing is we were three female partners who were there all the time. And guys would come in and try and tell us what to do with things, but we'd just be super polite and nice, and then we would end up not doing business with them because we got to choose. So that part was good. Um, I remember, sorry, they have turned down service here or something, but I'm just gonna let her come in. Um, but it was a really different time. I mean, men got away with doing so many other things that it was just like the way it was. And if you ever said anything about it, you could, kiss your job goodbye or any kind of promotion or anything. So I think having a women-owned company gave us the freedom to expand and be who we were, and we were never taken advantage of in any particular way. I mean, the accountant who came into our office that time and slapped me on the bottom, but we fired him. So, uh, that didn't really happen after that. And I felt like having a woman-run company really allowed us to blossom. And there wasn't a louder voice in the room from a guy. And it was very freeing and exhilarating.
Next, February brings 2 nights of Galentine sketching where you can doodle the night away with illustrator Holly McKegg, followed by a meaningful estate planning conversation with Tiana Ronstadt, sorry. You'll find links in all the upcoming events in the chat now and on the Kappa website, so be sure to save your spot. We've also included the link to the Key article from 2019 when Frances Valentine was also featured. Thank you again for being a part of Flourish tonight. We can't wait to gather with you again very soon. Till next time, good night, sisters.